Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Type 1 Thursday with me, Hanna Boëthius, one of the founders of the Low Carb bUniverse, as well as a Type 1 diabetic for the past at least 34 years. So, I have a few years of experience with this chronic disease. And I am now happy to share some of my knowledge, at least, with you all in this series that we call Type 1 Thursday. Today, I have a whole thing planned for you guys, and that is a presentation that I have done in the past, but I thought it's very important information, and so that you should know it as well. And this is the 5 lies that your doctor has told you about diabetes. And I cannot wait to get started because these are quite fundamental things that a lot of medical professionals or even doctors have troubles realizing, and that I'm quite sure that you have been fooled as well. So let me know in the comments which ones you believed or which ones you've been told, so that we can get them straight and maybe not believe them anymore. So yeah, let's start going. My number one lie that your doctor has told you about diabetes is you have to have carbs. Now this sounds very, very silly to me now, after 8 years of low carbing my way through life as a healthier, happier, better human being, I want to say. But anyway, so that sounds really weird to me now, but it didn't sound weird to me then, which is when I believed this and I was told it, that yes, your body needs carbs, and yes, this is partially true. Your body does need some carbs and some sugar, but your body's also clever enough so that it can sort that mess out on its own, and you don't actually have to add any or very, very few carbs from the outside to maintain that equilibrium of carbs versus the rest of stuff in the body. Also, again, I keep saying this, I keep talking about this every week, but this is really true. The carbs and insulin, like, they're not a match made in heaven. Injected insulin is, first of all, not by any means as precise as endogenous insulin. So if a human being produces insulin on his or her own, that is a lot more effective than the injected insulin that you as a type 1 diabetic will have to inject. And of course, the disparity between these, you can never chase a lot of carbs with a lot of insulin, because the equation very rarely will match. And this, of course, goes back to apparently my favorite topic in this, which is the law of small numbers. So if you work with small numbers, small levels of sugar, you work with small levels of insulin, and they are easier to make happen and make that into an equation that actually adds up. Also, of course, this makes me wonder why the official recommendations are still 45 to 60 grams of carbs per meal for diabetics. I think that is ludicrous, and I don't understand why, because clearly, you can survive on almost none, actually, because your body's so beautifully clever in that way. So you don't need carbs is the conclusion for lie number 1. There are alternative fuel sources for your body to function. Lie number 2. Hey, just eat what you want and cover for it with insulin. That'll work, right? Well, it does work for some. It just doesn't work for myself and many other type 1 diabetics out there. It is, as I already mentioned, too difficult to match a lot of sugar with a lot of insulin. So it isn't the ideal treatment. I mean, it is the best treatment we have out there, but it's not the ideal treatment because it doesn't work as nature intended with injected insulin and with carbs. So don't be fooled that you can just eat anything and just cover for it with insulin, because in very many cases it doesn't even work. So basically, also Hyperinsulinemia has been shown also to cause an array of crazy things in your body. It has been linked to certain cancers. It has been linked to coronary heart disease. It's been linked to Alzheimer's. It's been linked to a lot of things. So if you can help it, maybe it's not the best idea to put a lot of insulin into your system if you don't have to. Like, what is the point of that? Also, insulin toxicity is, of course, another thing to mention here, and that is something that we need to, of course, have a lot more research on. But for now, I don't want to jinx anything, and I don't want to be playing with uncertainties when I have another way of doing it. It also, of course, when you eat whatever you want and cover for it with insulin, it does make the margins of error way too large for comfort. And that is one of my main points of eating low carb as a type 1 diabetic. It is the margins of error are just too large to handle for me. And also, of course, this sends your blood sugar on a roller coaster rocket ride. It goes up and it goes down, and then you have to treat with insulin, you have to treat with sugar, you have to treat. What else? You still have to have a job, you still have to, have a normal life, but all you're going to do if you are on that roller coaster is to manage diabetes, and that is not what I want for you. That's not what I want for myself. That's not what I want for any type 1 diabetic. So this is why I call it a lie, because it's not sustainable. And for very, very many of us, for those who it is sustainable for, yay, good for you. Awesome that you found what works for you. But for us that it doesn't work for, I want you guys to know that there is another way of managing diabetes. So conclusion for number 2 is too much insulin isn't good either. All right, and then I have a sneaky 2.5. Lie number 2.5. Without masses of insulin in your body, you're gonna go into diabetic ketoacidosis. I did a whole video about this a couple of weeks ago, and I think well, at least I aimed at trying to explain to you that this was not the case, and this has nothing to do with how much insulin you have in your body. It has to do with that you have enough insulin in your body. Doesn't mean that you need masses for it. And there's many factors that are needed for a diabetic ketoacidosis to happen. That is high blood sugars, there is dehydration, there is large ketones, and not like the large ketones that they mention in these nutritional ketones things. No, like really high ketones, like 10 millimoles and upwards for it to be a DKA. And this requires, what did we learn a couple of weeks ago? We learned that it requires a lack of insulin in the body. And nothing else can actually push you into DKA apart from the lack of insulin or being dehydrated. So don't worry. There are very many ways that you can avoid a DKA, even if you are type 1 on a ketogenic diet. What else do we have? Also for that 2.5 lie, normal glycemia has been shown to actually have less evidence of DKA. They actually it occurs less DKAs on as long as you have normal glycemia. So if your blood sugars are normal, stable, healthy blood sugars that all diabetics deserve and should aim for, then going into a DKA is pretty little. The chances and the risk is very little. This leads me shamelessly onto my 3rd lie, which is all ketones are bad. Even trace ketones are bad for every single diabetic. It feels like I also did the video a couple of weeks ago on this topic, because this is, of course, when diabetic ketoacidosis isn't at all the same as nutritional ketosis. They're two completely different things. And what's needed in between is, of course, the lack of insulin. We come back to this again. So trace ketones may be a danger if you are a sugar-burning diabetic who is not receiving in either way the insulin that the body is needing, or that you actually just don't have control of your diabetes. Then trace ketones can be bad. Yes, absolutely. But if you are a controlled fat-burning machine of a diabetic, there won't be a DKA as long as you keep taking the insulin that your body is needing, you keep hydrated, and you keep an eagle eye on your blood sugars. It's not harder than that. So keep at it. So ketones are great for you, are a great fuel if you know how to use them. And I hope with these videos I have shown you, or I'm going to keep showing you, a few things that can convince you that this is the right thing. So the conclusion for lie number 2.5 and 3 is DKA is easy to avoid even as a type 1 on a ketogenic diet. Lie number 4, complications are a natural progression of diabetes. This one actually really annoys me because not only is this said widely and freely and by everyone who is educating diabetics around the world, but they also come with the terrible advice of eating 45 to 60 grams of carbs a meal. How is that possible? How, like, those two things absolutely are correlated, because high HbA1cs, so above the normal healthy level and ranges, of course, has been shown to cause more diabetic complications. And I know I don't have to, but I'm going to anyway. Diabetic complications are things like retinopathy, potentially blindness, amputations, nerve damage, renal failure, heart problems, high blood pressure, all of these things that can be correlated with high blood sugars. And of course, you get high blood sugars if you keep eating all that sugar. So I think you see my point here. Furthermore, a healthy A1C is max 5.5%, which I think is very interesting, because for a diabetic, it's anything between 6.5 to 8% of HbA1c. Why is that? Why do they think that diabetics are going to be healthier at a higher A1c level than normally healthy people? That is an equation that I can't make work in my mind, so that is why I also call this a lie, because of course, when the goal is set so high for diabetics, they are more prone to complications. And that is, of course, then it becomes a natural progression. So basically, stable, normal, happy, healthy blood sugars are the leading cause of absolutely nothing. Then you can live a healthy, happy life with both type 1 and type 2 diabetes, depending on, and all the other types as well. But that is, of course, that does have the prerequisite that you do get the chance and that you get the information that this is a possibility, which of course a lot of people don't today. And that makes me kind of sad. Conclusion from lie number 4 is stable, low blood sugars will keep you safer from complications than the high wacky blood sugars that are set as the goal for us today. Lie number 5 is a cure. It's just around the corner. And I bet if you do live with type 1 diabetes, you have heard this at least a gazillion times. Every time I went to my endocrinologist as a child, every time, I can't even imagine how many times my parents have heard this too, back in the day, and it's always in 5 to 10 years. Yeah, listen up, people. It's been 34 years and I'm still waiting for this cure to happen. So I'm sorry, but I've lost a bit of faith in this statement, which is what is causing me to also call it a lie. And this is, of course, there have been fantastically promising advancements made in terms of managing diabetes. We have insulin pumps, we have continuous blood glucose monitors, we have blood glucose monitors that need a lot less blood, they're a lot less invasive. We have so many treatment options now, and especially now, super exciting with sort of closed loops and open loops that are coming out on the market. And that is going to be fantastic. But I have to be a little bit pessimistic when it comes to cure, because I don't think that is actually even on the horizon. There's a lot of attempts going on, but there's not that much progress being made in that. So the conclusion from lie number 5 is there's going to be a lot more done for diabetes management, but maybe not as much as we hope for a cure in the foreseeable future, at least. I hope someone proves me wrong. I really, really do hope someone proves me wrong. But from what I can see right now, this is not the case. All right. So, which ones of these lies have you believed? Have you been told, maybe? Or have you been told any other lies that I didn't have time to bring up in today's live session? Let me know in a comment, and I will be happy to discuss it there. Have a fantastic rest of the day, and I will see you next week with a new episode of Type 1 Thursday!